Hi there. Welcome to the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. I'm so glad you're joining me here today. As you've likely guessed by now, my name is Denise Alvarez. I get to host you here on the podcast every week. And before we dive into today's guest, which I cannot wait for you to meet, I will give you a very quick introduction just in case for new friends. And then I promise we'll get right to it. As I said, my name is Denise, and through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I get to help dream-chasing horse business owners like yourself to ditch the marketing overwhelm, get the clarity you've been craving, and grow your business in a way that meets your definition of success. Now, I do this primarily through business and marketing coaching, as well as education, such as this podcast, and some online learning resources as well. All the things that I do, friends, are so that you as an equestrian entrepreneur can be out in the barn or the arena or behind the camera lens or even at the computer, whatever it is that you love to do so that you can serve the equine industry. That's what I'm here for, to help you do more of that. And so here on this podcast, you'll get a mix of step-by-step strategies, essential how-tos, and entrepreneurial mindset shifts that will help you not only see what's possible for your horse business, but I'm also here to guide you through that process so you can make it happen. And today we are doing that by way of meeting Frankie Lovato, who is the founder, creator, handcrafter of Equicizer. I am guessing that many of you know about the Equicizer, but just in case you don't, it is a custom-made, handcrafted mechanical horse that is used in homes and businesses and nonprofits across the globe for exercise, for training, for instruction, for therapy. And so you can learn more about that, of course, but what I want you to hear today is the story and the heart behind the business. And Frankie was so very generous of his time and shared the story of how it began, which actually, as many businesses do, it started as a way for him to solve his own problem. And then over time, people began asking him to build one for them, which you will hear. You're going to hear, honestly, how Frankie's passion is a driver. It was his passion for horse racing and being a wonderful jockey. His need for something to help simulate being on the horse is what drove him to create what we know as the Equicizer. But he now has a passion for that and a passion for the people that he serves and the way that it helps them. You're going to hear that in this conversation, but you're also going to hear some really practical ways that you can apply these principles that he will share to your own business, that you can apply the lessons is a better way to say it, actually. You're going to hear some lessons learned and you can apply that to your business. So I cannot wait for you to meet Frankie. On the other side of our conversation, at the end of this interview, I'm going to give you some takeaways, as you know that I do. Like, I want you to hear the story. I want you to hear the heart. And I want to give you some practical takeaways that I hope you will be able to apply some of these lessons as you grow and build your own equestrian business. Now, everything that you'll hear me talk about in terms of takeaways, I'm going to put onto the show notes. So as you were listening to this conversation and you hear Frankie talking and you want to check out his website or you want to check out some of the links or you want to write down these takeaways, but you're not in a place where you can write, just know that you can go to the show notes at any time. And that will be stormlily, Lily, .com/164 for episode 164. And that will get you to the show notes on my website where you'll get all the links I mentioned and the takeaways, highlights of the conversation will be there for you. And that way you can just listen in. All right. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Frankie Lovato. Okay, Frankie, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate your gift of time and I'm looking forward to learning more about your story.
Yeah, and thank you for having me, Denise. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're going to just dive right in. I have been on your website and I was telling you I've been watching YouTube videos to try to get a really good understanding of what you do and how you do it. But I would love for my listeners to hear it from you. Tell me a bit about, and let me just say this. I know sometimes it feels like this is a really big question. So it's not like you have to give me all the things all at one time. Totally will be a conversation, but tell us about your history and how you came to found and start building the Equicizer and what that journey has looked like to you over the past, how many years has it been now?
Well, It's been my lifetime basically, because a bit of the story I'll tell you about.
Yeah.
When, but then there's the when it actually fell into something that's more real. Dating back when I was a kid, in horse racing, my dad was a jockey,
Okay.
and as a little kid, I had an obsession with wanting to be a jockey myself, wanting to ride horses. But I grew up in the suburbs. I didn't have a pony. I wasn't around horses other than at the racetrack. I would tag along with my dad, and where I
Okay.
was permitted to be, it was a very controlled situation. um, I got to ride a stable pony, which was like a really big deal to me. But it wasn't like a kid being able to run out and gallop through the pastures with your first pony or horse. And so what my frustration with that and wanting to ride is I used to pretend my bicycle was a horse, and then I would build things, or I would try to build things that I could put a saddle on. Of course, I think everybody's tried to saddle a barrel or a couch or the armchair, something that they could fit a saddle on. Um, that was my frustration. So I used to always try to create things. Uh, as an early teen, I'd left home to go work on a farm to begin my training to be a jockey. So at age 14, that was kind of a normal thing. Like for most jockeys, you want to get started as soon as possible, mostly because most people outgrow the job. So most states allow you to get licensed professionally at age 16. That was my target. That was my target since I was 4 years old. So
Okay.
uh,
That's so cool. Yeah.
yeah, so my dad being a professional jockey, he and our his resources, he just knew people. So, but he didn't have the resources to have me ride or start me or teach me or anything like that. So I was pretty much driven and on my own, and begging my parents that I've got to get to a farm. I can't learn how to ride races on my bicycle,
Uh-huh.
as much as I tried.
Right.
So I ended up on a farm in Ocala, Florida, and there I was paying my dues, working very, very hard to earn my opportunities. And when I say that, opportunities to get to ride maybe one bad horse in the barn that maybe will turn into two and three, and
Yeah.
riding in the tack and riding the horses that nobody else wanted to ride, and then painting fence, building fence, cutting grass, doing more stalls than you could ever imagine. That was me paying my dues and then developing my riding skill and getting more opportunities to ride more horses. And if you're any good at it, you earn more opportunities, work harder. But in the meantime, riding horses on the farm still is not riding races. So then it was throwing a saddle on a couple of bales of straw and pretending. And the race riding is a lot different than any other type of riding. We ride up in the stirrups, short in the stirrups, 2 point position, and we drive instead of driving with our seat like most riders would do. We drive a horse using our hands and arms, and our only contact besides our hands with the horse's mouth um, would be like one of our. We can't use our legs to ride races. We have a whip, so um, so our whip was one of our aids that would help you guide a horse, help you let a horse know. First of all, if you're trying to slow them down, you're absolutely staying away from that. But when you're also trying to encourage them to finish at their best, if you've seen horse races, which I'm sure everybody in the world has, the jockeys go to the whip, and that's to keep the horse motivated and going. Anyway, um, bales of hay, bales of straw, whatever I could put a saddle on.
Yeah.
And sometimes I mean, that was my simulator, but I still was pretty handy. And so there's a pile of wood behind the barn. I would build things to try to make it better. And one of the things I wanted to create was besides straddling a bale of straw with a saddle, I wanted to be able to use my hands and arms to drive the horse in a rhythm when a horse is in a full gallop running. It's That's part of holding the position and driving a horse forward, and then all your other skills that follow that. So This is the long version.
You're good. I love it. It's just the history and your story of it. So I'm sure my listeners are loving it too. Yeah, this is where the passion comes from, right? For the business that they know, this is where that passion comes from.
Yeah, and it's a passion for not just desire, but it's a out of necessity. Like if you need a tool, you know, it's like, I mean, a hammer is a tool. It's a piece of metal on a stick, basically, and it's a tool. So I was trying to develop a tool to help me be the best athlete I could be on a horse, and um, so it was, everything was very rough.
So this was in
Every,
your teenage years, Frankie, when you were
oh
doing
yeah,
that? Yeah.
oh yeah, I was doing this. You know, like I was on the bales of hay were when I had access to them. You know, I'm 14 years old, 15 years old. Um, and then before I left home, I was riding the couch, and pieces of wood I would put together and strap on buckets or whatever I could do to pretend I was race riding. Um, so meanwhile, I'm on the farm. I'm earning opportunities. I'm earning my keep. I'm progressing. My riding skills are getting better. More trainers are noticing me. I'm small, of course. You know, it was pretty obvious that I wanted to be a jockey. So I just started getting more and more opportunities, and which meant I was riding a lot of horses. Um, Still not race riding. A lot of it was breaking babies,
Okay.
breaking horses, and riding very long on the stirrups, and learning, teaching horses how to be ridden and trained, different than race riding skills. So there was still the frustration, and I couldn't practice all that. But meanwhile, my horsemanship skills were improving. Opportunities were more and more riding a lot of horses, and of course, long hours. That there wasn't much left of any human being at the end of the day. So I wasn't building so many things to ride at that point. Um, so fast forward, by the time I turned 16, I was riding for a racing stable, and they took me under their wing, and they brought me to the racetrack where I was their head exercise rider, and there, I was progressing. I got better. I started riding professionally at age 16, and I started riding just in a few races here and there, but later at 16, um, a couple of people, I got some opportunities to ride a few horses. They all end up winning. They all end up doing very well, and it just took off. And then I couldn't not win races. It was the most incredible thing.
Wow.
I went from 0 to 100. I went from riding uh, and galloping, exercising horses in the morning, to riding the card, basically all the races of race day. Um, so that first year of my career, I was breaking records. I was winning races left and right. Um, they sent me I was in New York. I started in Florida. I ended up in New York, but they wanted to get me more experience, and bring me back to New York when I was a little more polished. So they sent me to Ohio, where I am now. um, I I ended up the leading apprentice in Ohio. They sent me to Louisiana, New Orleans. I ended up the leading apprentice in Louisiana for the year. And even though didn't even take the whole year there, and then they sent me to New York, and I went on to win the riding apprentice riding titles throughout New York for the year, and on to winning the Eclipse Award, which is it's the highest achievement award you can win in horse racing. So like winning the Heisman Trophy, or something, a major accomplishment in the world of horse racing as North America's leading apprentice. Uh, Everything was lovely.
Yeah.
I'm on top of the world. I'm in the top 10 leading jockeys in America. Um, everything's fine and dandy. So uh, I, I I lost my apprenticeship, which means now I have to compete at equal weights with all the other journeyman riders, all the other professionals. So I'm competing against the best jockeys in the world at that time, and I'm holding my own. And everything's just going hunky dory until, bam, I have a riding accident. and a horse flipped over and fell on top of me, and I fractured my femur. And it was a bad fracture. It was the location of the fracture, and I needed several surgeries. And the doctor, my surgeon at the time, had said, of course, I'm 17. I mean, maybe I'm 18 at this point. I can't really remember. I might have been 18. So I asked him, as like, when can I ride again? That's the first question. Like,
Sure.
get me out of this thing,
Yeah.
like, get me out of this bed, and when am I going to ride? And he pulled me. He says, man, he says, you we're going to have to talk about this because it was questionable if you're going to be able to ride uh, races. Like he was afraid I'd lose flexion and my knee, which I did. Um, and so that was not good news. And as I started the rehabilitation process, um, they had me doing exercises, and I was going for therapy, physical therapy, and you look around a room for physical therapy, and you're a horse rider. Specifically, in my case, I was a jockey, and you look around a room, and what is in there that's going to help a horse rider, and I mean, there's several things, of course, that'll be beneficial, but what's going to help a horse rider? And there's zero. There's absolutely nothing. And that, for me, especially getting in that jockey position, was questionable. I went right back to my roots, my ideas when I was a kid, and I had a friend that was a carpenter, and I was still on crutches, and I was limited what I could do, and I drew him a picture. Can you make me this? And he got a big kick out of it, and he says, I think I can do that for you. And we constructed a barrel. We used bathroom carpeting, some foam. We had a spring-loaded neck that had we went to a junkyard and got some springs off a hood of a car, and we strapped this whole thing together and had a neck and a head on it, and I could put a saddle on it. And mind you, I was still on crutches, and but I could straddle it, and I could put my foot in the stirrup, and again, I had very minimal flexion. And my knee was, I don't know how many degrees, but it was not very good. I would not be able to crouch down. Uh, and I had a thing to measure because my doctor had me trying to get my knee to bend, and I was doing these exercises. But this thing, sitting in a saddle, putting my foot in the stirrup, like every couple of days, I could raise that stirrup up one hole, and and then I would exercise. I would ride my little wooden horse, and it was painful, but after a couple of days, wasn't so painful, and there was a lot of muscle atrophy as well. Like from my I had two surgeries. The one was pretty extensive, and I lost my body went complete atrophy. I had no muscle tone, and my wife, then when she saw me get out of the bed for the first time at the surgery, she said she cried because she could not believe what I looked like. I was a skeleton basically, and I was 88 pounds when I was normally 110 pounds.
Wow.
So but the cool thing is I was riding my little wooden horse, still hadn't got my just one hole at a time, but all my body strength started to come back. My muscle tones was coming back all naturally by itself. It was really amazing.
Just from that, or was that from, in addition, you were doing the therapy, the traditional therapy as well, and weightlifting, or literally that was?
I gave up on I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
And my little wooden horse was doing everything for me.
Okay.
It was taking care of everything. So I'm probably 2 months out of surgery, still on crutches, but I was getting stronger every day, and I could move my stirrup up every couple of days, and I was getting fitter and I was getting stronger. And I know the story's going on a bit long, but I got the flexion back into my leg. Fast forward to the doctor's appointment, the follow-ups, the x-rays, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, he was amazed. And, and he says, I think I can give you the okay to start getting on horses, start riding. And I laughed. I said, well, I actually been riding for like the last 3 months. And I explained to him what I had done. He thought it was fascinating. And I hit the track once I got the okay from the doctor, my surgeon. I hit the track the next day. I got on 7 horses, and yeah, I was a little bit sore, but I was ready, and nobody could believe it. The guy, the one trainer that I was riding for, he says I could put you on one. This is like Tuesday. He says I could put you on one Thursday at race. He says, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" You know, and he did, and we won by a nose.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
it was, and like I went, my friends from visiting me, my colleagues, the other jockeys that are close friends of mine, that gone from visiting me in the hospital and seeing me go through this rehabilitation process, and and when I did rehab, I was away from everybody. I was in Florida with my mother, and where I built my first wooden horse. And then for them to see, like, they're like, "How'd you do this? What happened?" And it was about my wooden horse. So they were all like, "Can you make me one of those things?" And I just laughed it off. I laughed it off for several years. Um, and it just became like my secret little weapon. And not only could I train at home, um, and not only did it help me build up my fitness way before I ever actually had to get on a real horse. I was able to my confidence level, my fitness, my strength, it was all in place to when I stepped on when I stepped onto a real horse, yeah, I was so much more prepared rather than starting from scratch or zero or working like weights or doing other sort of swimming or whatever type of physical therapy that you could try to grab a hold of. It's not a horse. So that's what I created, and that's how it started. Um, and so years, I got back to my career. I'm still in my late teens, early 20s, and friends are just keep bugging me. And one particular one is he's a leading rider in America. His name's Angel Cordero Jr. He's still one of the most famous and one of my heroes, race riding jockey, best in the world, the goat, right? Says you gotta make me one of those things, and I put him off for a long time, and I did not understand why he wanted one because he's
Well, that was
riding.
my question. That's going to be
Yeah.
my question. Yeah. Why did he want one so badly?
Well, and then it wasn't him. It was on the West Coast. It was Lippy Pankai, the other goat in the world. He's one of the most famous jockeys. He's bugging me to make him one, and I'm like, what do these guys need this for? Like, and one thing I've learned about with top riders, top anything, anybody that's very, very good at what they do, regardless of their level of success, they're never happy with themselves. They're always trying to be better, and anything less is unacceptable. So the idea of the Equicizer, they're going to be able to keep training, even when they've already ridden and maybe won 5 races that day. They're going to go home thinking I could have done this better,
Uh-huh.
or I felt like I should have won that race. And so I learned that about these guys that are at the highest echelon of horse racing, that they never are happy really. They're always trying to perfect it. And I guess that would be like any singer or actor. They're so good at it, but they work at it. And that's when I was like, man, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming. So I built them. They wore me down after a couple of years,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
my career was I never really got back to the level of before my accident, um, which is pretty. When you have a bad wreck like that, and people are worried about if you're the same, or if you're
It's an uphill
afraid.
battle to get everybody to believe that you're as good as you were, even when you know it.
Yeah. And then there's all these other young riders that came up right after me that were just they were doing what I was doing, winning a lot of races
Yeah.
and building.
Sure.
I've lost my clients. I lost the momentum that I had. So anyway, I had some time and I was like, I'm just going to build these guys a couple of horses. And
So this time you built those yourself. You didn't go
yeah,
back to your construction friend. You figured out how to build them.
yeah. Well, I would have been able to before. I just physically wasn't able to. So now I'm healed and healthy, and I love working with my hands. So so yeah, so I built a couple of horses, and then a couple more jockeys. Friends of mine, or it's people that please build me one, please build me one, and it just kept happening. Um, and then one of the jockeys I mentioned, and he was in California, and he had a big birthday party, and it was all the famous riders and trainers that were, and some more international jockeys that were in California. They saw it, and next thing I know, I get a phone call from Japan, and then another jockey from Europe, uh, uh, asking me to build them one. And I started to get a little bit, okay. I, I'm still a jockey. I still have to focus. To be a jockey, you have to be 100% committed to this. And there wasn't any bandwidth to do something else. And it was just supposed to be a fun hobby. Well, a couple of years later, long story short, after I built for these people, a few horses here and there, I said, I better go for a patent. I better go. I better start an official business. And my wife and we met with a lawyer, and we were not business people, not in that sense whatsoever. We're both horse kids, and um, so we didn't have any background. I had some people that were trying to counsel or help me, tell me what to do, what I should do, and and I think in a typical business, which I'm sure will fall into questions that we're going to run into, but typically when you want to start a business, or like an invention like this, uh, you try to figure out how fast can you make it, how cheap can you make it, um, you know, like all these different things in manufacturing. I had people that were trying to help me with, and we just couldn't figure it out. And there's really no easy way to do it. I'm building a horse, basically, and uh, what's the market? Is uh, it's got to meet the demand, and what do you how it was so new, and at the time we're just focused on horse racing. So what people may not know, in horse racing there's probably only less than 1,500 to 2,000 licensed jockeys in America, and North America, let's say. And in the world, it's really it's a small market. It's not, and then there's the affordability, because most jockeys make less than minimum wage. Your listeners might find that fascinating, but only the top tier do very well. And then once you drop off, it's a sharp drop to what jockeys making a living. It's so what can you make that's affordable? Um, and it just wasn't fitting. Uh, so I went back to trying to focus on my racing career, my jockey career, and I was going to keep this as just a hobby. Meanwhile, I went through the patent process. I got pretty far with that. I got patent approval, so that's the patent pending. Um, and then I had someone that tried to. They actually stole my idea. They instead of calling it the Equicizer, they called it the Perfectorcizer. They used my literature. They're in Canada,
Oh my
um,
goodness.
and um, and they're using all my marketing materials, all my ideas and stuff. They basically just literally copied me. And I was so angry, and I called my patent attorney, and he had said, well, he says we could send them a cease and desist letter, but before we would have any grounds to sue them, we would have to, has he sold in the United States? Has anyone purchased the Perfecticizer thinking it was the Equicizer? Are they the same? Um, what are you willing to spend on legal fees? Um, it was like, yikes. You would think that it would be, hey, you're copying me,
Right.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
and
This is not
and
right.
yes, darn it, sucks.
Uh-huh.
No, it doesn't. It was, and then I learned that you would have to apply for a patent in every country. So, and by then, I mean, I'd already sold horses to Canada. I've already sold horses to just about every country in Europe. I already had like 30, 40 Equicizers in Japan. I had another 20 already in Australia.
Mhm.
So I would have even given up. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know. I'm telling you my story. I could be wrong about a lot of this stuff, but this is what I remember and what I was told. And this is 30 years ago. Um, so my idea was, well, I'm just going to outwork anybody that tries to copy me. I'm just going to work harder, and I'm going to build a better product. And they're going to have to work twice as hard to beat me and pass me. And that's what I did. That's what I'm
Mhm.
still doing, which which is kind of funny. But so
It's
go ahead.
no, no, no. Go for it.
I think I've yapped away here. So I was going to say, please ask me questions at this point, because that's kind of my
I
background.
told you in the beginning, I'm always full of questions. So that is no problem, especially when it comes to this, because I do find it fascinating for people that when I coach, so I coach horse businesses, and here on the podcast, even I talk about sustainable success. Like I'm not here to give you like a shot in the arm. I want it to be sustainable and long term. And so you're a beautiful example of that sustainable, successful equine business. And so I so appreciate you sharing that. And it's important for people to remember that it's a process and there are things that are going to happen along the way, like people copying you that you'll have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about that. But before I do, I would love to hear more about. So you started, it was jockeying, but then, I mean, you've now, which again, I know is years in the making, you have equicizers all over the place and in a variety of disciplines and even being used for rehab and therapy. Are those things that people just heard about it and sought you out? Or were those things that you actively went to and said, like, this could help you, was it a marketing aspect for you or was it a word of mouth marketing thing because you had a unique product that was filling a unique need?
It was a unique product that it was very little marketing, word of mouth. So when I mentioned someone had a party and they're showing people this horse I made,
Mhm.
I'll tell you a quick story. It was someone that heard about it through another jockey, and they had a therapeutic riding program. This is in New York. They had a therapeutic riding program where we lived at the time in Long Island, and they had a particular student that would. So therapeutic riding at that time was still kind of new, and we are going back. This is 30, probably literally like 30 years ago. So I
Uh-huh.
had a student. He had cerebral palsy. Uh, they knew he would really benefit from riding in the program, the physical and the mental benefits that horses can do for people with disabilities, right? So, but there was an issue. He had a fear, and um, he had a fear of horses and a fear of heights. And because he 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 lived in a wheelchair, he had every reason to anything other than his wheelchair to have these fear issues. Um, so they said, "Hey, would you do us a favor? Could you come out with one of your horses to our barn and let's put him on that and let's see if we can just help him just maybe overcome some of this and see how he does and maybe if we can't get him on the real horse." The thing is, he wanted to do it. that's where everybody was driven. Like, we're not gonna. He wants to do it. He just had this fear. So I bring an Equicizer out there, and they put him on it. And what they didn't realize was other things started happening. So he started smiling. Um, Automatically, like people with cerebral palsy that are dealing with this, they have their muscles are very tight. They're very clenching, clamped, spastic. What they didn't realize is that, well, he was smiling, so there was an emotional thing happening, but the physical part of it on the wooden horse, the Equicizer,
Mm-hmm.
was that his legs started to drop and his hands started to open up. Um, and he started like loosening up, and then he was starting to try to make the horse move by himself. And so they're all like, "Oh my God, this is fantastic!" And they asked me if I could leave it there with them and work with this particular student. And I'm going to say he was probably uh, maybe around 10 years old. Um, so he wasn't that young, but he wasn't that old either. In a week's time, he was begging to get on the real horse. He was like, he wants to ride, and it was like an amazing experience. So there was a physical therapist there that was like, "What are you doing with this business?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm still a jockey, and I'm making them for other jockeys." And he says, "You got something here," and he wanted in. um, but that's how it started in the therapeutic riding program. I went and
Okay.
I did a conference at that time. It was the North American Riding for the Handicap, which is now Path International. Um, so this guy says, "You've got to go to one of these things," and which I did, and then people ordered right off the floor. They were ordering for me to build them one.
Yeah.
Um, so now I'm trying to figure out, whoa, this market is much bigger than horse racing. Um, I need to prepare. How am I going to build these things faster? And I'm still in that same position, but there's a new market, and then I had another friend that was not a jockey that just rode horses, and she had asked, "Will you make me one?" And I'm like, "Well, why do you want one?" And she's like, "I don't get to the barn enough, um, and I really want to stay fit, and it's fun doing the jockey exercise." But she's like, "Oh, but I could do other things. I don't have to do the jockey exercise. I could practice posting, with or without stirrups, and I could um, practice my seat." And I was like, well, I'm thinking, I think that there's absolutely, because horse racing and the potential market, the benefits. I absolutely think there's a potential market in the equestrian, but I was afraid to put myself out there because I didn't think my horse did enough. And my horses were just springs. It was just a balancing apparatus. It wasn't a simulator. We're so used to like a treadmill with a television screen and pushing buttons and check your all these things.
Mhm.
So I was not going to put myself out there until dadgummit, I'm gonna have this thing. I'm gonna make a simulator. I'm gonna have it post trot canter. Um, I mean walk trot canter, and do the gates and all that stuff. And we're gonna. It didn't. The interest was still there, regardless. I didn't have those things. So um, I delicately, I put my toe in the water, uh, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to advertise in this market yet. One is I still had to figure out, well, can I build them faster? And
Mhm.
and but I didn't think it was enough for the open market, and I might have hurt myself because I slow walked it. Like I didn't jump in. Um, but fast forward to now, I've designed the design I'm using now in 1993. So that's 31 years ago. Um, and years later, I went to a mechanical engineering firm, and I said, "Can we do this, or what can you do to make this better?" Because this is little old me. I did this in my garage. I came up with these pivot points, the spring, this tensions, and they like it now, but I think it's got to be better. I think it could be
Mhm.
better. Give it to the experts. They couldn't do it. They couldn't figure it out, and they looked at me like, you nailed it. Like,
That's amazing, Frankie.
I
That's so cool.
I know. I still kind of like, and I got it on the first try, which was kind of funny. And I was doing it for me, for as a jockey.
Right,
I
right.
wasn't trying to. I wasn't thinking of any other discipline of Western English or anything. I was just trying to create the balancing and rhythm of a horse, to mimic that. And so yeah, the market came to me, and since then, um, I still had a lot of my racing career, my jockey career, that I was kind of messing up, and I was trying to balance the two of them. I was wearing myself very thin, and I didn't want to retire, uh, regretting my riding career, my jockey career, which was my dream. That was my passion more than anything I ever lived to do. Um, I was afraid if I let the Equicizer take me over completely, and I hadn't figured out how to manufacture it with someone else doing it yet, no matter how hard I tried, um, that I would have regrets with my riding career. So I actually stopped building Equicizers for about 5 years.
Mm.
Um, and there was a funny part of that story, that when I did that, I got a phone call from the filming crew, the director, and from Chris McCarron, who's also, um, training Toby Maguire, the actor, for the movie Seabiscuit. And they're like, "Frankie, we need 7 Equicizers." I was like,
Wow.
"I can't do it, man. I can't do it." And it was like, "We want you to be in the movie. We want to use the Equicizer." Um, and I'm like, "I'm actually routing in Chicago at this
Oh my
time."
goodness.
So it's kind of funny looking back now, but I was able to, um, put together a couple of units for them, and then between my wife and I, and the casting directors, we we hunted them down Equicizers that I made for other people, and either they rented them or bought them.
Uh-huh.
But um,
Wow. Why did they
the
need
Equicizer,
7?
they wanted to. There was several different reasons. One is that Toby Maguire had one in his home that he was training on. Um, then they had two on set that they dressed up as, they looked like real horses.
I saw that in one of your videos. That was super cool.
Yeah, it was super cool, and all the close-up scenes were shot riding Equicizers, these two Equicizers. And then they were shooting in several locations, so, um, they were just trying to cross their I's and dot their T's. No,
Gotcha.
cross
Mhm.
their T's and dot their I's.
I just
So
let that one go right over me.
yeah, yeah. So that was a lot of fun, and we made it. Everyone made it happen, and it was
Yeah.
a success. And that's when I was like, man, I'm riding races. I stopped making Equicizers, and I could have taken so much advantage marketing. Like, I had so much, like, free marketing at my fingertips, and I couldn't do anything about it really. I just had to be like, and just ride the ride. And it was a lot of fun, and it was a great deal. And um, so I stopped making Equicers for 5 years, and it was going to be my retirement. And I'm in my late 30s, early 40s, and that's like, 40s is old in jockey years. So I'm riding
Yeah.
against kids that are in their 20s,
Yeah.
uh, and you start your clientele is reduced. And me, I had a lot of pride, and I was riding for top trainers and nice horses. And but when I saw that it's going to get a little more challenging, and I did all I could, and I knew I did my best, that I was going to retire to the Equicizer completely. and I'm going to put everything into the Equicizer 100%, like I always wanted to do. No regrets in my riding career. And so that's what I did. And that was that was late 2004, and I fell right into it, and it was gonna, okay, now I'm gonna figure it all out again. Like how to uh, manufacture these faster, better marketing. Uh, Marketing could be so fun because like the only game in town, basically. Um, but it wasn't. It was hard, and I couldn't achieve the things that I thought that would be a little easier to do. Everything was challenging. Um, as space is challenging, materials are challenging, um, cash flow, uh, maintaining, like obtaining materials, and then running the business, and how you like, and it's still kind of, it hasn't changed much, but like nobody really knows the business as well as me. Very challenging, when you need two of you. And you probably know what that feels like. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners will know what that feels like. And if you could find that person, it's it's a beautiful thing. I had my wife, but she passed away in a car accident 10 years ago, which has been devastating, which has
Yeah.
been a huge setback. Um, but it's been 10 years, and I've rebounded, and um, and this business keeps me going. It really does. It's very passionate,
Yeah.
and, and my customers drive me. So if you're passionate about something, and even if you may not know the answers, it's you wake up in the morning and you know you're doing the right thing. And this business has been so rewarding, and it's very cool. And I'm almost, if I'm 61 now. And I got to really think about the future because I'm only a little guy. I'm only 5 foot tall, and I build horses. So these things, they're not little.
Yeah.
I work on the floor a lot. I maneuver in them. I do all the upholstery. I do the wood carvings. I do all the painting, the finishing, and the packaging. And I have helpers. I have part-time helpers. My sister being one of them, and my son-in-law, and my son in New York helps me with social media. Um, so we have kind of a family affair thing going on. Um, and but I got to think about, okay, I'm actually really enjoying my little operation. I get to deal with my customers on a personal level. I make this experience is good for them. They're spending their money. They're investing into this piece of equipment, which they believe in, well, the equipment, but they believe in me. I look at that as they're investing into me to provide this for them. And when I build this product and I ship it out the door, I never take it for granted. And when the customer receives it, every horse I send out there, I still, I still hope that they're going to be pleased. And it's been, I'm telling you, it's the best feeling in the world. And I'm lucky I wake up every day getting to do what I do. So it's very cool.
I love that so much. How many have you counted? Have you kept a count how many you've made
I
over the years?
I have Equicizers. I just passed 1,800.
Wow.
So yeah, that milestone. And I was also building a pony version of the Equicizer,
Mhm.
which I hope to bring back soon. And I've made about 100 of those. Um, but I had to stop making them because my shop's not big enough, and I just could not juggle. Like it's almost like even though it's very similar, it was too much. It was slowing me down of getting the main product out there. But hope to bring it back. But yeah, I'm nearing into close to 2,000. And
That's
yeah,
amazing. So many people that you have helped, and horses. Like, let's not even talk about the fact that it's helping a lot of horses that otherwise would have to carry the weight of somebody relearning and learning things that at the end of the day can be hard on the horse. And so you're also helping a lot of horses while you're helping people, for sure. I believe that 100%. So, okay, you've answered this along the way, but in case there are other things, I am curious. Well, not, let's say, we know, especially for someone who's been in business as long as you have, that there have been roadblocks along the way. And you did share some of those, right? Somebody stealing your ideas and your materials, and obviously the personal loss of your wife and impact of that. I've talked about here on the podcast, like when you're an entrepreneur, there is no separating the personal and the business. The impact is always going to be felt. And so are there others though that you maybe haven't shared about that you remember or that have taught you something, that as far as roadblocks along the way that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah. The thing about business is and I'll be honest, I don't really consider myself uh, a typical good businessman. So there's, when you think of running a business, there's profit and loss. There's how do you make it faster, cheaper, and get it out the door? Turnover, volume, all those things. I'm terrible at. I'll be honest with you. I am terrible. I'm probably the worst businessman in the world when it comes to that side of things. And I don't even like. I need the money to pay for everything, but I wish I could do this for free. That's where I'm at with it. But
Yeah.
so every time I've tried to find a partnership or somebody, the first thing they go to is, well, these materials, can we get them cheaper?
Mm.
Can we like cheaper labor? Um, what can we do to get the cost down? Um, and 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 I I tried it, and I have not figured it out. Like, um, and nobody else has either. They can't figure it. And that's probably why I'm still like, I've been doing this for so long, and why other companies that have tried to copy me, or they can't figure it out either, because I think there's, with this business model that I've created, though it works for me. I've got it figured out. But it's so refined, but it's also so personal, and it's so hands-on. And every piece of it it's meticulous. That that every portion, there's the product. I try to put everyone out the door to perfection. And when you worry about quality control, when you worry about using cheaper materials, or how can we do this faster, all that stuff will get compromised.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I haven't figured it out yet, honestly, but I've worked with some great businessmen, um, and I think they might get frustrated with me, uh, because I don't want to cut corners, and I don't want to compromise the product, or the materials. Um, so that's my mission, is to figure out how can I do both, and there's got to be a way.
Yeah. Hmm.
There's
Well,
got to
and
be a
part
way.
of that is why you've been sustainable through the years, because the brand that you've built, while you would say, like, I'm not, you've built a brand. When people hear the Equicizer, it's a trusted name and brand. And that's because of that, right? Because you've built a quality product that has stood the test of time, and that so many people would stamp their name on that you probably stamp your name on. But for sure, I have a podcast episode with a successful equine photographer. And she talked about this idea of scaling to grow. Like, everybody thinks that in order to grow your business, like you were talking about, you have to scale, you have to be able to do more, more, more. And she was talking about, really, as an entrepreneur, we have options, and we get to decide, what does growth look like? What does success look like? Because it's very subjective. And therefore, it's not going to look the same for everybody. Now, for those listening who are like, I haven't really checked the Equicizer out yet, I've heard of it, I want you to go look, because here's what you need to know. Frankie literally is getting every horse completed by hand, like shaping every part of that horse's head, painting it painstakingly, all these things by hand. I'm curious, why is that part so important to you? The fact that they are custom, and they are beautiful. Like somebody, for example, who walks in looking for ways to cut costs could look at labor and say, look, if you just would make all of them the same color, right? If you would just
Hmm.
standardize the process, then that would solve your problem. So, what is it for you that makes it so subjective and a non-negotiable? Obviously, you've been doing it for a long time and you have not standardized that part. Why is that non-negotiable for you?
Um, well, I never say never. That's very important. Um, but I just haven't. I haven't. For example, like the horse heads, I do carve them myself. I haven't found someone else that could carve, but I could make them out of fiberglass. I could make them out of a urethane mold. There's several other things that they could be they could they could be made out of. If I wanted to order 100 or 200 at a time, um, that would be savings. But I like I'm still stuck on just working with my customers, and I don't have like if I was to try to uh, make an Equicizer head out of fiberglass or urethane foam of some kind, um, I would have to I'd have to stop everything what I was doing, and I would have to send it out, and I would probably, to get a decent price on it, I'd probably have to order 100 or 200 at a time, maybe, and then I would have to store those. And I just, I just go back to, like, it's just easier for me to just go carve this thing myself. but but if the market really starts to force me to figure these things out, I'll do them, and I'll try to do them right, and I'll try to do them, that won't compromise any part of what I do. So, and who knows? Maybe there's maybe there could be something better. But I think right now people, um, for what I got going on now, that I think that they appreciate that portion of it, especially with the elite model, because there I get more details and carving out the eyes and nostrils, and people send me photographs of their horse a lot of times, and I airbrush the markings, and so I really tried to personalize each one for those customers. Not that it couldn't be done. There's probably better artists out there and things that I just haven't gotten there yet. Um, but it's possible.
So stay tuned, right? Is what you're saying.
Stay tuned. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, I have another question for you. I told you I'm full of them. I'm so curious, and I know, and you've already said, so you don't have to say, you don't need to repeat. Well, I don't know the business side because you do, and even there are many things to be learned for somebody that has done it this long from someone who has done it this long. And so I am curious, if you were sitting across from somebody at coffee and they're saying, okay, Frankie, I think I want to start my own business. You maybe didn't set out with that mindset of, okay, I'm going to start my own business, but you've done it. And so what are some things that you would share with that person who's saying, I'm going to start this venture. I have hopes, I have dreams, right? And what advice would you have for me? What would you share with them?
Well, I think whenever starting a business, especially if you're if you're new to business, you never take in consideration the roadblocks, the challenges, the cost. It's just expensive. It's so expensive, and you think, well, if I'm going to sell, if I'm going to sell this block of wood, and I can make I'll sell it for $10, and it's only going to cost me $2 to make it. Man, my profit margin. And if I sell 100 of them, so you start looking at numbers that way. But what you don't realize is all the hidden expenses and obstacles that you're gonna hit, and some of the costs that you're gonna have to eat and absorb, and mistakes are gonna happen. um, so it's challenging, and it's challenging. So I would recommend anybody to actually, instead of like looking at the glass. I know this is terrible because we always want the glass to be positive and half full, but look at whatever could go wrong, and research whatever could go wrong, things that you never even thought about, and then weigh what you're getting yourself into, um, and what that would look like. And if you're okay with a little reward, and just at least initially, to see, to get a feel of really where you're at with whatever you're trying to do. And some people, you heard the saying, what is it like you really don't know. It takes 5 years or something like. Do you know that saying? If you start a business, it takes 5 years before you'll start seeing, like, uh,
Like a
success.
return.
Yeah, return on your investment in time and stuff like that. And um, yeah, I've been doing this for 30 years. Um, and I keep laughing whenever I hear that. I mean, maybe it's true. There's some people that just get lucky, and they get the orders, and it just just takes off for them, and they figure it all out. Um, I I don't know about. I think everything's going to be a little bit to the individual and what you do and what you love, right? So sometimes, my my wife, once she says, one of your best attributes as a person and this business, because she thought I was crazy, even though she loved and supported me, of course. But she says, you're relentless. Like, and I laugh when I hear that, when even I say it to myself. I'm relentless. I refuse to lose. Um, and uh, and I would consider myself successful because I took something that was nothing, and it's a business. It's helping people. I'm doing it. I'm paying all my bills. I'm not rich, but I'm paying my bills, and I got my family. Um, so I really feel, I've got a nice home. I love my shop. I feel like I've made it. So, um, but back to your initial question. Um, yeah, make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's. Look for everything that can go wrong, and then maybe
Yeah.
try to find things that might go wrong, even if you don't think they exist. And know that there's going to be, there could quite well be some things that look like failures. Um, but if it's what you want to do and you're passionate about it, yeah, that's when, um, you can be a little resilient, and like my wife used to call me, relentless.
Uh-huh. I love that word, relentless. That's a great quality my daughter has right now. So I'm going to remember that that's going to serve her well.
Could serve her well. Yeah, she goes after something she wants.
And
That's
I do.
right.
I believe that. I'm like, it's hard right now, but it's a really great character trait to have, especially in entrepreneurship. And when you have that clear vision of what success is for you, then I love what you said. You'll go through things that look like failures. That's something that has taken me a very long time to really learn and understand, how much even failure is subjective and doesn't have to be considered a failure, if you learn from it as you go. So that's wonderful advice. And that idea of looking for things that can go wrong. I have a friend who's a certified event planner, and she's talked about the things they do in preparation is they have a plan A, and hopefully it all goes according to plan A, but it never does. So they have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, right? Because they're prepared for the things that could go wrong. And then the attendees don't always know what went wrong because they had a plan. But if they didn't think about those things ahead of time, then it would look very, very differently. So I love that advice. That's really great advice. I'm going to sit and think about that for myself a little bit. Yeah, that's solid. Okay, Frankie, you've been so generous with your time. Is there anything else that you're like, okay, if I'm talking to entrepreneurs, if I'm talking to fellow business owners, this is the thing I want them to know or remember? Would there be something else? Or are you like, nope, Denise, I've covered it all?
Well, it's funny, as we were talking, UPS just delivered. It was just so I got a bit distracted.
You're
Um,
good.
but yeah, I think, it goes right back to, if you believe in something, you're passionate about something, you feel like you're good at something, you believe in yourself, and you believe in your product or products, or idea of a business. Um, you know, it can be very challenging, but if you believe in it, get to the bottom of it. You don't want to have any regrets. Sometimes like me, I I've believed in this business, but I still had my racing career, my jockey career, and I had a bit of a choice that okay, I don't want to have any regrets with my racing career, and so I completed that. There's nothing wrong with that either. Like if you think you're onto something, you want to start something, but it's just not the right time. It doesn't mean you can't keep kicking the tires.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean you can't still do some of the hard work, um, and reduce the like and still have your 9 to 5 job and pay the bills. But yeah, but be sure when you do dive in, go for it. And the plan B, plan C, I honestly, maybe my racing career became my plan B, or my Equicizer
Or vice
career became
versa.
my. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It was hard to define at one point in my life, but it my plan B is now my plan A, and there I have no net. I don't have a plan B anymore. I'm going to make this business work, and I've done that. So I feel lucky about that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, of course, I'll have links to your website and social media and all the things in the show notes for the episode. But for those that are listening right now, tell them where they can go and find out more about what you do.
Great. Well, we have our website, which is equicizer.com. And Equicizer, a little tricky to spell, but it's EQUICIZER.com. And there you'll see there are many different ways the Equicizer is being used, and then the models that we make, and some of the other processes. And there's a customer's corner link on there that can be fun to kind of look around, poke around the site, and then people can always reach out to me at info@equicizer.com. And I love to talk to people. I love to talk to them about the product, and if it's something that would be beneficial for them. One thing I always tell my customers is I don't want to sell you a horse. I want you to buy this horse if only I know it's going to help you. So
Yeah.
that's where I feel like I keep my 100% satisfaction rate way up.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And tell me this from just a customer perspective, like for those that are listening saying, okay, I'm kind of curious about the process. So because it is custom, so it's not like behind you in your shop, you have like floor models that people are choosing from, right? They order from you and then the build begins. Is that right? Tell me a little bit about that
Right.
customer
So
journey.
we don't. I usually I've been averaging the past 6 years or so, averaging somewhere between 4 to 6 months back ordered. So that's important for people to know. There is an occasion I get ahead, and there are occasions when someone orders that there might be a delay for them to they. A lot of people order like they're moving and then their house isn't ready yet. So sometimes I can move customers up and move them around. Um, but that's basically what we average. And people do have options when they order one. We make the two models, and one is like basically fully customized. And I work with every customer personally, and just to get it right. So aside from the actual physical benefits, there's a lot of emotional with ordering these. In many cases, people are ordering a horse that may have passed that was very special to them. Maybe their doctor says they should no longer ride. It could be for a equine assisted services program that are using these for children, and maybe they had a therapy horse that they wanted to honor. There's so many different scenarios, and of course in horse racing for jockeys, it might have been a horse they won a Kentucky Derby on. It's
Yeah.
like I made Mike Smith Zenyatta. That was so fun. Um, so yeah, there's all different kinds of scenarios, but I that process, I try to make it very personal, and if they care to, if they, some people just want to order it and don't want to talk to me, so that's okay
Just
too.
give me the horse,
Just give
Frankie.
me, just give me a black one. I don't care what it looks like. Just
Right.
give me it. I don't care anything about this garbage. That's true though. I get customers like that. Okay, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
build you a horse and
Yeah.
you're gonna like it.
You're
I won't ask you any more
going to be
questions.
surprised when you open that box and how you feel connected to that horse.
And then they start talking to it, and then it becomes their best friend. That's
And
happened.
you have a nameplate. Like, I think that's so fun too. Like the horses have names, right? And you
Yeah.
make a
So I
name.
don't I don't name them, but
The
customers have the
horses, yeah,
option.
I should have been clear.
They
Yeah,
can
they'll tell you what the
they
name
can
of the
name
horse is
them.
most often.
Yeah, and some people put a little quote of inspiration on there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the programs will, if they had if they had a grant or a sponsor, they may thank that sponsor.
Okay,
If
yeah, that's awesome.
Ronald McDonald House Charities or the Christopher Reeve Foundation, those things, they say special thanks to. So that's fun too. And it's a way to commemorate those people that have stepped up for these programs, these nonprofits that are using our horses. Um, yeah. So, oh, and you know what? I wanted to mention it. You said it. Do I keep a record, or do I know how many horses that I built? That I have numbered. Every one of them has a number, an ID
Oh,
number, and
okay.
most of them it's just written in black marker inside.
Okay.
But it's a little code of the model that it was made, and the year it was built, the month it was built, and then which number in line it was. So, like I mentioned, I just recently last month I built my 1,800, and that was fun, because I sign it. I sign it inside. Nobody ever knows that or pays attention to it, but maybe someday it'll mean something with all those Equicizers out there.
I love that. Your personal stamp. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so fun. Thank you so much, Frankie. I really do appreciate. I know I always say this, it's a gift of time that I feel like you are giving to my listeners. So, thank you. I appreciate it,
Thank
and I
you.
am totally cheering for you and what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And this opportunity, I'm grateful. So thank you very much, Denise. Really appreciate it.
I sure hope that you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. What a gift of time that was, and how inspiring it is to be able to hear somebody's journey through the years and the blood, sweat, and tears that they have put into their business. And really, as you all know, as an entrepreneur, your life and your business are very much intertwined. And so, of course, his passion comes through. And so I'm sure that's the same for you. Now, I want to give you some practical takeaways that I wrote down as notes as I was listening to Frankie share his story. All right. So these are 4 keys for you to keep in mind that will help you to build a thriving equine business with passion at the heart. Number 1, the first key. Oh, before I dive in, I just want to remind you that you can go to the show notes for these things. Okay. So if you head to stormlily.com/164, I have the highlights of these takeaways there for you. All right. In case you're listening in your car, mucking out stalls, and you are not at a place where you can write something down. Okay, let's dive back in. The 4 keys. Number 1, innovation. Nothing existed that would help Frankie with his problem, and so he created the solution himself. And that is so often what happens for equestrian business owners. There was a problem that needed to be solved. There was not an existing solution. And so you created it. And that, my friend, is innovation. And that's the key. Now, you may be at a place where you're saying, Denise, what I'm doing isn't exactly brand new to the world. I just have my own unique spin on it. Well, that is innovating as well. So remember, innovation can just mean your mindset inside of your business and giving yourself freedom to think differently and innovate to solve the problems that your customers, that your audience has. All right, the second key is quality. To build a thriving equine business with passion, you absolutely have to have a quality service or product. You heard Frankie talk about how people all over the world are asking him to craft an Equicizer, and it's because over the course of 30-something years, he has been creating this high quality product. And that is what has driven the demand for what he is doing, because people trusted the product he was creating. And so whether you have a service or a product, it is imperative that you have a high quality service or product in order to build a thriving equine business. So quality has to be key. All right, the third key is preparation. Now, this is advice that you heard Frankie give at the end of our conversation, that it is important to consider ahead of time what could go wrong in your business. Or perhaps you're planning a clinic, or perhaps you're planning an online launch. Have you taken time to consider what are the things that could go wrong and how can I prepare for those now? How can I address those now so that those problems don't even happen? They become a non-issue because I've taken care of it. Preparation is so very important and oftentimes overlooked, especially for equestrian entrepreneurs who are just excited to get the ball rolling. And that's great. But remember that the more preparation that you do intentionally, the smoother it will be on the other side. Doesn't mean it'll be perfect, but it'll be smoother. All right, your fourth key is relentless dedication. I love that Frankie's wife described him as relentless. And as I said, I think that's a quality that we often don't think about, but that's so very important. Because as you are growing your business, challenges will arise, regardless of the stage of business or how long you've been doing it. But you are here because you are relentlessly dedicated to the cause, to the why behind why you started your business in the first place. The reality is nobody can want this more than you. If that's the case, you're not going to do the things that are necessary to be successful and to build a thriving business. As the owner, as the founder, as the visionary, it is up to you to be relentlessly dedicated to the cause of your business and do what's necessary to bring it to success. Because we know, as I said, there will be difficult days. And I love what Frankie said. You will go through things that look like failures. But if you have a relentless dedication, you're not going to let that stop you. So those are the 4 keys, friend: innovation, quality, preparation, and relentless dedication. Now, there's a common thread that should be woven through every one of these in order to build a thriving business, because a thriving business is one that is sustainable. So as you consider each of these keys and qualities and you think about your own equestrian business, I want to encourage you to remember, think about the long term. Think about the things that you can do now and put into place now as you innovate, as you focus on quality, as you prepare, and as you stay relentlessly dedicated so that you can build a sustainable equine business that will allow you to continue what you're doing for the long term. Now, I want to let you know I do have a free resource that helps bring these things to life in a very practical way. I don't want to say more because those are very practical things, but in a very practical way, you need to be marketing your business. That's going to be a part of what you do. And even though Frankie talked about, yes, he has been driven by word of mouth, he has a website. He has YouTube videos. There are things that he has done over time to build out that marketing arm. It is a non-negotiable. And so I want to invite you to get my free guide. It is 4 steps to successfully market your horse business, even if you get horses more than marketing. It's going to guide you through, give you real life examples, and help you to see the areas that you can focus on to really up-level your marketing, to bring it into alignment with the goals that you have for your business, and to guide you in that process. You know that's what I'm here for. So if you go to stormlily.com/success, you can grab your free guide at any time. Or of course, I will have it on the show notes for you as well. All right, friends, I am so grateful you joined me here. I hope that if this story from Frankie, if his story inspired you and encouraged you, that you will not only share it, and please do, but that you will also send Frankie a message. Go find him on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Let him know how much you appreciate his honestly sharing his story so that you could be encouraged and inspired as you build your own business. I'm so grateful you joined me here, and stay tuned as I continue to bring you new friends, guests, and education to help you to grow your horse business in a way that is most meaningful to you. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you back here soon.